to another Reach for the Stars. G'day, I'm Mark Bishop. The Wiz, our resident astrologer Larry Martin, and I will be searching for some answers for today's hot topics, including politics and other concerns. But first up, the acoustic duo, Kayla and Charles, with an original composition, Starshine.
Casting shadows over the houses of the stars in the sky. On the eastern horizon, at the moment you were born, the stars were in line and they cast a light on you. And the circle of nine in that place of time is a mirror of your soul. 12 reflections and imperfections were placed on you. Stars shine upon you.
Aren't they great? The acoustic duo, Kayla and Charles, with their very own composition there. Fitting composition, I think, Starshine. And speaking of Starshine, how pleased we are to have on Reach for the Stars our resident astrologer and Mr. Wiz, I call him, and that's Larry Martin. How are you?
Doing great, Mark. How are you?
It's good to see you again, mate. It's been an interesting week in the news again. God knows what, but we're here to talk about astrology.
Right.
And we're going to find out a lot today, what is in the news, and what's going to happen. And 2 reads you're doing. 2 lucky people have rung up and come in the show, 1 male, 1 female, and you're going to be helping them with the future and guidelines. I'm a novice. How did astrology come about? I mean, you know, what's it about?
It really is as simple as natives looking up in the sky and looking at the stars and beginning to wonder why they're in the patterns that they are. And this literally dates back thousands and thousands of years.
Well, I've heard of Nostradamus, and I think there's a few others.
There are quite a few others.
Yeah,
you go back to Ptolemy and Plato and Aristotle and all of those
all these dudes were into astrology too.
Absolutely.
Huh?
Anyone who had enough knowledge to look up and then wonder, and then try to come up with some kind of logic behind it. In fact, that's where astrology gets its name, astrologic. And so they started to apply different meanings based on events that took place after the stars were observed to be in certain patterns.
Well, that's that little bit there that you just said.
Yes.
The events that took place when certain alignments were there. They must have studied night after night after night, day after day.
Well, the mathematics and the geometry, absolutely, they studied. But some of it were just simple observations. You didn't have, night pollution. or sky pollution back
right,
then. So
right.
if you saw Mars, it was blood red. And when they noticed war occurring, when the red planet or the red star was in the sky, they associated that with war. And that's the way it's always been interpreted.
Now, it does surprise me, but apparently there were some American presidents that were very much guided by astrology.
Absolutely. In fact, the founding fathers were mostly Freemasons, which studied all the geometry and mathematics in order to do their own astrology and timed the important meetings that were held in secret while the British were still in control of the country. In fact, Benjamin Franklin wrote his own ephemerides, his own star guide called
Really?
Poor Richard's Almanac. And he would be the secretary of most of the meetings.
Wow.
And decide when they would meet and what hour and what minute they would begin.
Right, right. I believe even Ronald Reagan, I think, and Nancy Reagan were also
did.
very interested.
Nancy at first, and then of course after President Reagan was shot, Nancy insisted that he learn a little bit too.
Yeah, well, there you go. There was a warning about that, wasn't there?
There was a prediction.
And I think there was also a prediction for John Lennon that
Yes.
nobody listened to at a particular time.
Yeah, and that's that's
I
too
mean,
bad.
it's sad.
It is, because I think, as science gained a foothold on its interpretation of reality, it kind of shoved astrology to the background because astrology will not follow the scientific method. There's no way to repeat a moment in time and then, check a prediction on it. So as much as scientists have wanted and
Right.
tried to study astrology, most of them dismiss it outright.
And of course, it's very different from, woohoo tarot cards and
Yes, it is.
lots of types of things. There's a lot of work in it.
Well,
in
it
fact,
is.
you've been doing it for quite a few years now.
Yes, since 1992. And as I joke around with my clients, I can't move a planet. So that's
But
where...
they are finding new ones.
Oh, absolutely. We have found quite a few new ones, actually, since 2003.
Right. Well, that's getting exciting because they're coming into the equation. You have clients, as it is, Larry, all over the world.
I do, over 28 countries to date.
Wow.
A little over 2,000 people. And that's actually began from my days at People magazine in New York.
Okay. Yeah, of course you were with People magazine. So all over the world, and people wanting to know business people, executives.
Correct.
People from all walks of life.
Yes, absolutely, especially those that some would say are more well-to-do because they've understood and studied history, and either through their relatives or their best friends or simply by enjoying the results, consult me on a weekly basis in some regards.
Well, no wonder you're busy all the time. We're lucky to get
I
you
know.
for the show.
I know.
But people do ring you up. They want to know. And the idea of having a couple of guests on the show each week is that we can help guide them. But we're also going to follow up.
Easily.
We're going to follow up on the reads that you did for them and the
Right.
guidance and the predictions for them.
Right.
Whether it's work, whether it's marriage, whether it's whatever. And down the track. And then we're going to hold you accountable.
That's perfectly okay with me. It's perfectly okay.
So that's fantastic. Alrighty. Our first guest is getting ready. Alrighty.
Okay.
And we're going to go to a break right now to pay some bills. But I'm looking forward to this, and I'm very excited. So
I as well.
And we're going to talk about at the end of the show. We're going to do some predictions on overall the country, presidents, people overseas, leaders of countries, and what's going to happen in 2018. This year, 2018. That's exciting.
It really is. It really is.
The whiz, Larry Martin, our resident astrologer. And when we come back, Larry's into his first read in Reach for the Stars. Welcome back. Let's go to Larry Martin.
Well, my first guest, Mark, is Andy, who's been so kind enough to volunteer and come out of hiding or, jump into the pool, as it were. And Andy, I just need to ask a couple of questions. First of all,
Okay.
when is your birth date, and about what time of day do you think you were born, and where?
I was born on December 15th, 1985.
Okay.
I believe it was in the middle of the night, early morning, and I was born in Wheeling, West Virginia.
Wheeling, West Virginia. Now, the reason I'm asking you for that kind of detail is that I want to bring up on my computer exactly where every planet in the solar system was located precisely when you were born. And the birth time actually shows which direction the Earth was facing those planets. So when I'm actually doing this is the scientific part of astrology, because there's only one way to calculate the position of the planets. So you already know you're a Sagittarius, but you may not have known that the moon was in Aquarius that day. And so we're looking at all of the planets, not just your sun sign. So what question would you have, or what concerns do you have right now?
Right now? My question is, I want to know if I'm going to be successful in my career and create the work that I'm proud of in the future.
Okay. You know, and again, I think the success is subjective. You know, everyone has a different measurement of that. It's either about making money or being comfortable or feeling a greater sense of fulfillment about your job. And really, all of these, there's a large group of planets here that we can see, or I can see, in the sign of Sagittarius, which is always the mark of the adventurer, the teacher, the professor. You know, you're going to really want to explore the world and maybe even pick up a foreign language or find ways to instruct others, because you've got this compulsion inside of you to reach into other people's thinking and change it for the better. So there's got to be a way for you to instruct and to do things on your own. You actually have the mark of someone who'd be more successful self-employed than working for someone else. And I'll tell you why. You've got a rebellious mark here. In other words, several planets here that basically say that you've got to do things your own way. You've got to be independent. You have to have freedom. You know, being, attached to a time clock and punching a card at 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. That's horrible for you. That's stifling. And sitting at a cubicle at a desk for 8 hours a day, that's another form of prison for you, isn't it?
Yeah, I hate that. I just can't believe that you knew that. I don't know you at all.
I've never met you before, have I? We've never spoken before today.
And that's kind of what my job is all about, is traveling and doing videos and exploring, and so I just can't believe that you knew that.
Well, and I think and sometimes what happens when I discuss how a person's chart is constructed, and let's say they're just selling pencils on the sidewalk instead of doing what you're doing, when their job doesn't match their chart, that's when they find the least amount of happiness. That's when they become disgruntled, angry, frustrated, and as you might imagine, difficult times are ahead for those people because they're not following their heart. And that's where you excel, is because the more autonomy and the more freedom you have, the more it's guaranteed you'll be successful because your heart will be in it. You know, and you have also some aggressive marks. There's a part of you that hates to lose. So there's a lot at stake here. This is not about a paycheck here. This is really about you being able to say, hey, this is my mark on the world. This is what I want to do and accomplish. And as long as people give you free rein, you'll accomplish it. No doubt at all. Now, one of the things I'll also bring up too is that 2016 and 2017 have been extraordinarily difficult for you. And that's because of the planet Saturn and how it moves around the sun. It takes 30 years for it to go through a complete cycle, and we look at career as being a part of Saturn's cycle. So really, over the last 2 years, it has been like you've been in a prison. Even though you may have been doing the work that you've always wanted to do, it really shows how you either weren't able to do it the way that you wanted to, or you were being hamstrung by someone, maybe an authority figure, maybe somebody who wanted to influence or control what you could and couldn't do. In other words, could have been just been general circumstances that kept your hands, locked behind you. So there really hasn't been a lot of great moments in the last year, and that search for freedom is imminent. So what you'll find as 2018 gets started is that all of the planets that have been holding you back now will release it. They'll actually change zodiac signs. And this happens. Well, and this happened just over the last week. Things are going to be improving as we go.
Really?
So what you're going to find is that the greater freedom's going to come. I don't know that you necessarily need to switch jobs, although you may see other people around you changing jobs. And as that starts to shift and change, your freedom will increase. You'll get more autonomy. You may even find yourself getting a promotion, maybe by the end of the summer. So things are looking up.
That's awesome. I can't believe you said that, because the last couple years have been some of the hardest years of my life. I think it's been hard for a lot of people.
It has, but you in particular. And I just want to thank you for coming on the show today. I've really appreciated you being here. And I appreciate your bravery at allowing me to look at your chart.
Well, this is really interesting. I think it's cool that you were able to read all of this stuff just from looking at this. And
again, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
It's all yours, Mark.
Well, I'm interested to see what our second guest is in for when we come back for Reach for the Stars.
Thank you, Mark. My second guest is Nick. Welcome, Nick. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate you taking the time and stopping in and asking about your astrology chart.
Oh, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Now, when is your birthday?
November 17th, 1987.
Okay, and do you know what time of day you were born?
Sometime around 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay, and where at? Where at?
Tucson Medical Center.
Wow, all right, Tucson. There we go. All right, Nick, have you ever seen your astrology chart before?
No.
Because like I was speaking with our last guest, this is actually a map of every planet in our solar system and where it was located when you were born.
Oh, cool.
So this is a lot more detailed than just talking about the sun sign of Scorpio, which you may be familiar with, okay? But also there's a moon sign and there's other planets in other areas as well. And your moon sign, for example, is in the sign of Libra, which is a sign right next to Scorpio. So I got all kinds of things to tell you about your chart. Now, what questions would you want to ask?
I guess I'd just be interested in, will my life be full of a lot of good love and travel?
Okay. Well, love life is something everyone asks about. And sometimes I get those really urgent phone calls in the middle of the night as well. But your love life is actually something that you probably won't want to talk about a whole lot. See,
Okay.
Scorpios are very intense, very passionate. And a lot of times people just can't handle that. You know, it's kind of like being emotional and being passionate and maybe, you know, hiding underneath her bedroom window outside, you know, waiting for her to climb out of it. In other words, you're going to want to keep a lot of this to yourself, especially the stalking around her bedroom window thing.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And, you know, that's when you want to just keep it to yourself. You know, a little too much information can seem harmful. And so the Scorpio energy is not just about the intensity, it's about kind of keeping it on the down low. Okay? Now, as fate would have it, so to speak, it looks like your chart is actually quite active with regards to your love life. And that's also noted by several planets that are in the other side of Scorpio, which is where Sagittarius is. So you take your love life pretty seriously. You know, there's a maturity level that I think your friends may not have, because I think you take it maybe a little too seriously from time to time. And you have a girlfriend?
Yeah.
Okay, and what's her name?
Alexa?
Alexa. And it's not just the Amazon device, right?
No,
She's real.
she's real.
Okay, good to know, good to know. Now, do you know her birthday?
Yes.
Okay,
It's July 6th.
July 6th, but
I can't remember the year.
you can't remember how old she is.
She's
she over 18,
23.
Nick?
She's, I think so.
I hope so. Alexa is going to be a sun sign of Cancer. Now, because we don't know the year, I can't tell you what her moon sign is. I won't be able to give you much detail about her other than to say that as she impacts your chart, you're both water signs. Scorpio and Cancer are very compatible. So it seems like on the surface, you found the right person, but she's going to be very nurturing, very mothering. She's going to want to be safe and feel safe and secure. So, but I really would want to know more about her birth year, or at least her age, before I commit to what's going to happen between the two of you.
For sure.
But I think you found the right person. I think you need to focus on that. And then you also asked about travel as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, travel is going to be more of a sense of adventure for you for 2018 because of where planets are moving. You're actually moving into a cycle that only happens once every 12 years. So you may end up going someplace that you've never been before. In fact, I would think the further away from home, the better. So whether you're going to the glaciers of upstate New York, I think it's very cold right now, or you're actually going to another country, the further away, the better. And so I would say that your best opportunities for travel will be close to the end of this coming summer and into the autumn. So if you happen to go earlier than that, it'll still work out fine, but you may not find yourself traveling quite as far. Did you already make plans?
Well, in September, we were in Italy for a shoot, and that's
Okay.
where I'm half Italian, and I always wanted to go to Italy.
It looks like you're
So-
going to head there, and you might
Yeah.
head there about the same time of year as well.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I'd love to go again.
Okay. Are you going to take Alexa with you?
That would be great. I would love to.
Okay. Well, good. Just, you know, make sure she goes willingly, and make sure
course.
she's older than 18.
Yeah.
Okay? I think you'll do just fine. And again, thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate your bravery and your ability to volunteer.
Well,
and
thank you.
Anyway, fantastic. Thank you so much. And back to you, Mark.
Indeed, Larry. And as the weeks go forward, we'll check in on all of our guest reads and see how they're doing. We're going to hold you accountable, my friend. We'll be right back. Well, it's nearly time for us to go, but before we do, we're going to check out our current affairs for the week. Larry,
Yes, Mark.
Washington and Trump, I've got to ask
Absolutely.
you. A lot of heat on this, what's it called?
Impeachment?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Trump has his opposition, just like always. It'll get even more intense, more feverish throughout 2018, but he will not be impeached during 2018.
This is 2018. Donald
Right.
Trump, the President of the United States of America,
Right.
will not be impeached.
He will not be impeached in 2018. Now, he's still going to have opposition. He's still have to going to hit the campaign trail, and he's got to try to save the next set of midterm elections.
Yeah, well, he's got a lot of work to do, but he doesn't want to run again, does he, after 4 years?
I don't think he does. I mean, he always wants the attention, but I think he's already won that, and I still see him being a one-term president.
Right. I've got a feeling that his son might start being groomed for something, perhaps.
In the future,
In the
distant future.
Not necessarily. All
No,
right.
we may see Mike Pence step forward,
A
though.
lot of good work's been happening, though.
Yes.
All right, so that's the Washington and Trump bit. Now, let's do a little travel.
Okay.
Russia and Mr. Putin.
Well, Mr. Putin's going to get reelected. I don't think that's too much of a stretch.
There's no doubt about him.
But,
You can't knock him off easy, can you?
No. But you know, he's a Libra, and he's always looking to balance the equation. So he's usually a step ahead of everyone and everything. So we'll still hear a lot about him in the news,
Right.
and he'll still have to be working his chess pieces, so to speak.
Well, the current guy, his name just slips me at the moment, but he was on 60 Minutes not long ago, and he looked like a real potential,
Well, I think all of them have potential. I mean, I think the Russian people want to see a more fair election. I think they're still afraid of losing Putin, though, because,
Really?
well, the entire history of both the Soviet Union and the Russians itself, they've always had an autocratic leader. So they're used to and accustomed to having one person do all the work.
Little Rocket Man. We
Well-
can't leave him out.
We can't leave him out, and we're not exactly sure of his correct birthday. So we do have it narrowed down to the point where we can look at it, part of where the planets were that move very slowly. And he's not as unpredictable as people think. He just loves to stir things up. And his relationship with China is not anywhere near as good as he would like to think.
So, what is he, one of these guys that likes to poke the bear type
He
thing?
does, but he uses a really sharp stick.
We don't have anything to worry about, though, do we?
Not with North Korea, we really don't. I do believe, though, that he's going to instigate some problems with Japan. Shinzo Abe, the leader of Japan,
What, flying things over?
I think so.
Yeah?
And maybe even something that might go boom. But Abe doesn't really like Trump and is going to react and behave a lot more unilaterally than we've seen Japan do in the past. And they may even start their own missile defense and up the ante as far as armed services.
What about, China's really sort of putting the foot down a little bit on him, isn't he? Aren't they?
A little bit, and I think China will step it up further and continue further sanctions and really cut off the oil supplies that North
Wow.
Korea depends on. But I think Russia will step into the background and start doing some dealings underground, so to speak.
Okay, now let's move on to a country that's in the news a lot lately, Venezuela.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, Nicolas Maduro is the leader there at the moment, and he had some good opportunities, I believe, over a year ago, but he
Right.
made some horrific mistakes, and the people are not behind him, regardless of what he would like to believe. So I think, over the course of 2018, he's going to be looking for a one-way ticket to Miami.
Yeah, but when you when you see it on TV though, and all these thousands cheering him and all of this, they're
all
not the
fake.
minority. They're not the majority.
No, I've got a number of clients there.
Right.
They don't know of anyone favoring him other than people that just want to be politically correct. It's all propaganda.
Middle East, we've got to talk about Iran and ISIS.
Absolutely. Again, I think ISIS has been receiving a lot of weapons and funding from Iran. Iran is fighting a proxy war against the Saudis.
I wonder where Iran got the money from to do that.
Oh, I think we may have given them the money.
No, well, there's Swiss money too, I believe. But
Swiss money,
who'd
yeah.
give 150 billion away like that? But anyway,
Anyway, I think
the Middle East is a hotspot, mate.
it's a very big hotspot. Iran's a much greater threat than even North Korea.
Well, that frightens the devil out of me. I mean, what's going to happen there then?
I think, again, we're going to see a lot of proxy wars, whether it involves Yemen or even Oman and some of these other countries. Israel will be in the mix. There is no one going to be excluded.
All in the
that area.
stars, huh?
Absolutely, yeah. We can see that in a lot of different charts. Even in Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman is going to become king. by the end
So
of
what are we
2018.
talking about? Little guerrilla warfare,
Proxy
startups
wars.
all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely. Proxy wars. People using the smaller groups and arming them and selling weapons. And
You never know who's
it's a
who,
big-
though.
Well, war is a big business, Mark. That's what it's all going to boil down to.
And who's selling them all the weapons?
I think the Russians are, and maybe even the United States. I won't exclude anybody.
Yeah, tell you what. Well, but it's going to be all right.
We're going to be all right. We're
As
going to
far
be all
as
right.
Middle East is concerned, I mean,
But we're going to see our military expand and grow like we haven't seen in many, many years.
well, we need that, but we'll keep South Africa for another time, okay? You know, that's very good in all the current affairs, but let me do a little bit of a seagull on you. What about me and our listeners? What can we look forward to?
Well, actually, as much as people want to be doomsday preppers, 2018 is going to be a great year. It's going to be
Good.
probably one of the best years in the last 25. And it favors people like yourself. You're a Pisces, I believe.
I am indeed.
And all of the signs that are of water and earth benefit the most. They have 12 grand alignments, as we call them, throughout 2018. So every month it's going to hold something special, very positive, challenging to the extent that it is only limited by their ambition.
Good news for all those out there.
Yes, it
Mate,
is. It
next
is.
week, fantastic. We'll have you back.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
I appreciate it, Mark.
The Whiz.
Okay.
If you'd like to come on the show and get your answers, call us at Reaching for the Stars on 520-305-3084, right there at the bottom of your screen. We'd love to hear from you. To close the show, Kayla and Charles, the acoustic duo, with another original. It's called Said Too Much. We'll see you next week.